All right. So, have you ever felt like somebody has had a stronghold over you so much that you lose yourself, you don't know who you are anymore, and sometimes it can just be like you're paralyzed, you can't move forward, you're just blank, you don't know what to do, you're just like crippled. I got stuff I want to talk about. So let me share this as always, and I shall jump right into this. So let me know if you've ever felt like this, if you felt like somebody has had a stronghold over you, yeah? Coming to you from a different location because I needed to get out of my location because I needed some fresh energy. I needed a change. I'm honestly over the ticks and the snakes, and anyway, so we're here. We are here, but I do want to talk about this really important topic. Monique says, that's for sure. Yeah, like somebody's had a stronghold over you. Like, I've got something big I want to share about this because it's really big, it's really huge, and it felt like such an important topic to talk about as well. So, just going to share this. Coming right up. Give me a second. So I can concentrate. All right. One more. All right. Don't want to hear myself talking. I'm trying to share it, not listen to it on my phone. Come on. All right, got it. So, I guess I want to talk about it in a sense that I want to share what I've been going through, I guess, and just having such a big differentiation in feeling from releasing this big stronghold that I've had over me, right? I trust if it gets too windy, you will let me know. And in this releasing the stronghold that somebody has had over me, there's a few different points and factors here that I want to talk about because, at the end of the day, does anyone really have a stronghold over us? At the end of the day, does anyone really have control over us? At the end of the day, does anyone really have that level of suffocating energy that just becomes obsessive in your thoughts and it's all you think about, and you might have attachments or cords or being codependence or whatever label you want to put on it. That's irrelevant to the fact, and the point is that it's just there's this stronghold of energy over you that you're suffocating and you're dying inside. You literally cannot breathe, right? You might even have strong bouts of anxiety, or you just can't function, right? So yes, my son's father's negative energy is still with me. There's all these things, right? There's all these pieces that I want to talk about. What I also want to talk about is releasing this stronghold of energy that I've just gone through and released, and I'm going to talk more about that in a moment, is that I feel like I'm coming back into myself. I'm here talking to you guys about this. I'm here talking, for example, I'm here doing what I want to do. I'm here doing the things that fill me up. I'm here doing what I used to do all the time. I'm here, speaking with you guys, right? And I feel like I want to be able to see you when I talk. So, because I want to see you, right? It's important to me. So, what's really interesting about all of this is that, I feel like I'm coming back into my own. I feel like I'm just being myself again. And I want to say I didn't realize how far I'd lost myself. At the same time, I did, but I didn't know. But it's just weird, right? So I want to talk about that. So in light of that, I'm offering my 2022 psychic forecast. This is where I do a psychic forecast for you guys for 12 months for next year. So the link is in the comments, the link is in the bio about that. Oh my God, not on Instagram. Link is in the title of this live stream. Oh my goodness. You will be able to find it on my website and my page shortly because I'll start posting it on there, but I'm releasing it with this live stream because I'm celebrating me coming back to me. Now, I was going to release like the 2022 psychic forecast like a month ago, and I'm like, oh, it's got my old photo on it. I don't have my moon tattooed like on my head, but I freaking love the picture on the 2022 psychic forecast. Like when I saw it a month ago or whatever, it made me remember who I am. It made me remember like when I got that photo shoot done, I was so in my element. I was so me. I was just so like totally me. Like no one was like I don't know, it was just, I was so me, right? I was so me. And, I wanted to get a new photo shoot because I was like, oh, because I don't have my moon on that picture. And I'm like, no, this is really important because I love who I am. I love who I was in that. I love who I am. So anyway, the 2022 psychic forecast doesn't have my moon on the photo, but I don't really care because I'm still me. I'm still me and I love me. So, okay, so Rita says, how do you stop the energy vampires who know how to play the game on zapping your energy for their game? Need to block that. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so let me share, and I will share and answer the question in my sharing, and if not, I'm going to come back to that. So if you guys have got questions about this, pop them in the comments, of course. So have you ever felt like someone has had a stronghold over you? Is really like coming into that point of, like with what I've released, like in the past 2 weeks, like at the end of the day, it got to a point, and I don't know if I talked about this, so I posted in my Reality Awareness support group about triggers, right? So when we're triggered by somebody, there's two parts to two different triggers. One trigger is that we need to do the inner work and clear whatever, is coming up around, inner child, past life wounds, like whatever it is. Like we're being triggered and we need to do the inner work. Then there's a different type of trigger. One where we're triggered by this person all the friggin' time and we've done so much friggin' work. And that trigger is that we actually just need to leave that situation, right? There's two different triggers. And one is that we need to leave. Well, that's number 2 that I said, right? Sometimes we don't leave because we're shit scared. What would life be like without that person? How can we leave this? We don't know a life without that. We're too scared, right? Now somebody could say we're attached. Yeah, maybe we are, right? We're attached and we're too scared to go and live life on our own, right? Now for me releasing the stronghold is I got really triggered, right? I got really, really triggered the other week, and it got to a point where I was so triggered that I had a flashback. I had a flashback to a couple of years ago to this person that I was triggered with, and I was just like, oh, and I forgot. Like the flashback showed me an incident that my intuition showed me at the time that I knew, but at the same time I like blocked it out, or I didn't want to believe it, or I didn't think it was happening, or I didn't think it was real. So I kind of just blocked it out. And so for like 2.5 years, I've been living in a space where I've blocked out what my intuition showed me back then. And the other week I got triggered and the flashback came back and reminded me, and I was like, Hannah, you need to get the fuck out of here. You need to get the fuck out of this situation. You need to release yourself from all of these groups, from all of these, like, no, just get out. Like, it's enough, right? And so when I've been like constantly triggered, it's like, yes, we can do inner work. And you know what? Sometimes we just need to walk the fuck away, and we've been too scared, and we like latch on because we don't know who we are without them in our life. We're too fucking scared. We've literally got some sort of cord or whatever it is. What it is doesn't matter, is that we're too scared to leave. Like at the end of the day, that's all it is, right? And so, the thing is that when we're that, like for me, I was so triggered and I had to leave. And so like, I sat with it. I didn't act on it straight away. I sat with it. And like all day I was just like, no, like this is like time to fucking leave. Like you need to leave the situation. And so by that evening I did. And I, removed myself, and I asked and I removed myself from all the places. And it was a big deal. And it's really interesting when you know that it's not right and you finally listen to your intuition and then all of a sudden you're gone and it feels lighter, but at the same time you're like, wow, that was fast, right? And it also shows you the truth about what you've been feeling for that amount of time, right? 3 days later, 3 to 4 days later, I released the biggest entity and demon that I've ever been carrying for ages, right? Now, some people might say that the entity and demons had been from those people. No. The entity and demon was there because I wasn't listening to my intuition way back when. So the entity and the demon, the dark being, whatever it is, right? So gripping on or doing whatever it is because I wasn't listening to my intuition way back when. I did, but I doubted it, or I didn't think, right? And so when you look at who has a stronghold over you, you have to ask yourself, where in my intuition am I not listening to myself? Because entities and demons only come around when you're on the wrong path. Entities and demons and darkness only come around when you're not listening to your intuition, because they're there gripping on, trying to wake you up, saying you are on the wrong path. You're not listening to your intuition and you need to wake up. As soon as you get into alignment, they disappear. We can cut cords, we can clear energy, we can do all the things. But the fastest way to clear any darkness, the fastest way to clear any entities, the fastest way to clear any demons, the fastest way to clear negative energy is to listen to your intuition. Not just listen to it, but action it. The faster you come into alignment, the more that darkness will disappear. The faster you do the things that you know need to do to come into alignment, the faster that darkness will disappear. That doesn't come without grief. That doesn't come without shock. That doesn't come without all the feelings and emotions that come through the change that you go through when you start to pull yourself into alignment, when you start to take action and listen to your intuition, when you start to do those things. Of course you're going to go through the grief process. It's change, right? Any change triggers the grief cycle, and you should be processing that. You should be grieving that. You should be. Right? Especially if it's been many years that you've been in that situation. Whether it was good or bad, you're still going to grieve it. It's a bit like what I was sharing the other day around, my part 1 and part 2 of, I don't know, it was something to do with narcissism, but whatever. I can't remember the title of the live stream. You guys might have seen it, right? It's important to grieve the loss of that relationship. It's important to grieve the loss of that, even if they were a narcissist, even if they were abusive, even if we need to grieve that because we're not in that relationship anymore. And we were in it because we looked up to them, we loved them, whatever it is, right? So it's important that we grieve that. But what's most important is that you can do as much clearing as you like. You can do as much inner work as you like. You can do as much anything that you like. But if you are not in alignment, you're still going to have all that stuff. You can clear entities, you can clear demons, you can clear darkness, you can do as much inner work as you like, but it's just going to stay there and it's going to keep coming back and back of it because you're just not supposed to be there. You're going on the wrong path. And any dead end is going to be hard work. It's like swimming out in the ocean, swimming against a rip. That you just don't do that. You literally drown, right? People die trying to swim against the rip. It doesn't happen, right? So when you come into alignment, everything shifts. There are no issues, right? Of course there's shit to deal with, but it's not like the dark alley that you can't see what's there. It's a lot lighter. You feel better. You feel better without even doing anything, right? Now, signs that you are, I don't like saying on the wrong path because it's all learning and it's all lessons and it's all of that, right? But it kind of is a wrong path, but it's not, because I don't like using that word, but you get what I'm saying, right? So signs for me, like if I look at the last 12 months, longer, if I look at 2020, if I look at the last 2 to 3 years, I've been on deep Netflix binges. My addictions have been at an all-time high, and by that I mean my coffee addiction. I mean my food addiction, just crap food. If I look at my Netflix stuff, I want to say avoidance. I didn't feel motivated for work. I didn't feel You know, like I didn't feel at my peak. I didn't have that aliveness back. You know what I mean? I didn't have that, right? All my addictions have been at an all-time freaking high. Why? Because of the pain of realizing that I'm not in alignment was so hard to believe, or so like, I don't know, a big grief, or whatever the story is, realizing that that path is not in alignment, is not who I am. Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like the lighting is a little bit off. Let me get the lighting sorted. So what's really important is that you understand that you know, like somebody only has a stronghold over you when you're not listening to your intuition. When we talk about energy vampires and all this sort of thing, what comes down to your boundaries. Because people can only vampire off your energy. People can only suck your energy. People can only do whatever they do to you and have control over you and have power over you and all this shit because you're letting them in some way, shape or form. So let's say it's like an ex-partner or an ex whatever it is. Like, that's because you still answer the text messages. That's because you still answer the phone calls, especially out of office hours, right? And we were only talking about this in Trust Intuition just the other day, last week on our final training, which, by the way, the doors to Trust Intuition are going to be opening soon. The early bird's going to be opening soon, right? Because I'm only going to hold Trust Intuition live once a year, and we're starting in February next year. So early bird is opening soon. But we were just talking about this in Trust Intuition just the other day. Setting boundaries is the only way you're going to stop people vampiring off your energy, right? Like, you're letting them in some way, shape or form. So there's definite boundaries, right? Whether it's an ex-partner or an ex whatever it is, right? Office hours might sound silly and ridiculous. I'm like, can you try it, please? And make it really strict, clear within yourself about what you answer, how you answer, all those pieces, because you're the only one letting them vampire off your energy. Nobody else. It's not them doing it. You're letting them do it, right? Even with me in the situation that I've just stepped out of, it's like I felt drained. I felt paralyzed. I felt crippled. I felt all of these things. Why? Because I was keeping myself in a situation that my intuition deep down knew wasn't in alignment, but I was trying to make it in alignment because it was beautiful and shiny and all the things, right? Doesn't matter how shiny the object is, right? If we're staying against our intuition, then we've got an inquisitive little person around. If we're staying against our intuition, everything's going to get dark. Everything's going to get hard. Like, I felt like I was being sucked dry. I felt like everything I was doing was wrong. Nothing I would do was good enough in the space. Why? Why? Because I was going against my intuition, right? I was being drained by everything because I was just out of alignment. Are you wanting to say hi? No. You say hi to the world. I don't know who these kids are. I have a thing with kids. They tend to like me. So when we look at our intuition and we look at people who drain us or people who have a stronghold over us, it's only because in some way, shape or form, we're not listening to our intuition. Somewhere along the line, our intuition had already told us to leave that damn situation and we just haven't yet. Somewhere along the line, our intuition is saying something is in the way. Somewhere along the line, our intuition is like giving us signs. Somewhere along the lines, our intuition is saying enough is enough. Now, there's a little bit of a difference here, okay? There gets to a point where we're shifting out of old patterns. Right? And sometimes that can be uncomfortable, and sometimes we stay in situations, right, not against our intuition because we're actually feeling like we need to break patterns. Now, for me, I knew that I was breaking a reactive pattern, okay? I didn't want to just leave out of a reaction because I've done that many times in the start. I've done a live stream a couple of years ago saying, I think it was something like, reactions are the death of me and my relationships or something, like my reactions kill all relationships or something like that. I've done a live stream about it. because I was always told with my ex long time ago, you're the one with the problem. It's your reactions that create all this. It's your issues. And I'm like, okay, I need to look at this. And I did for like 3 years solid in therapy and counseling and all the things, right? So I was very conscious of, am I leaving out of a reaction and I'm being triggered and I'm leaving out of a reaction, or is this my genuine intuition saying it's time to leave? So it is a fine line when we're breaking old patterns, and I want to say, it's simply we're growing up, right? We're coming out of the immature state of reactions and we're stepping into a mature state of like being conscious and actually having like a, Do you guys really want to say hello? I'm talking to the world. Yes. Yeah, I will say hi. They can see you. Hello. Hello. So our reactions, right? Okay. When we're breaking reactive patterns, it is a big, like, it's a fine line of trusting our intuition. Right? It is a fine line of really trusting our intuition, but where is that breaking of patterns? For me, with what I've just stepped out of, I was conscious that I didn't want to leave out of a reactive pattern, right? But when it got to last week and I was so triggered, right? And like I said, like someone could say to me, oh, Hannah, you left out of a reaction. And in myself, I'm like, I've had like 3 years of reactive triggers that I've stayed to deal with. But when I have a reactive trigger and I have a flashback to something my intuition told me 2.5 years ago that I ignored, I'm going to listen this time. Now, I could look back over the past, 2 to 3 years and say, wow, yeah, you stayed in a situation that was not in alignment and it's really hurt you, right? At the same time, I can see that I stayed because I was conscious of really working those triggers and really working with what is it that I'm running from, right? A lot of you guys have seen me work through this, like running away from trauma and being on adrenaline and running, right? And that's what I've really been breaking. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm really triggered, but I'm working on this and I'm not going to leave because that was my automatic thing is just to leave, right? But it gets to a point where my addictions were at an all-time high. Like I said, I was on the biggest Netflix binges, like eating junk food, like just eating shit, like just all the stuff. And so when I look at, when you look at, is my intuition telling me to leave? Like, am I staying here out of fear? Like, am I not setting the boundaries that I need to set because I'm scared? Like, then it's like really looking at, okay, where's my intuition and where's my inner child in this? Like where's the pieces in this? And this is where in Trust Intuition, and I teach all these different aspects because we've got shadow parts, we've got past life parts, we've got, family triggered trauma parts, we've got, like higher self parts. There's so many different inner parts when we're looking at, okay, am I trusting my intuition or is this coming from a trigger from all these different little parts of myself, right? And that's where it gets tricky and intricate. And this is what I teach in Trust Intuition. And this is where it's really having that depth of understanding of which part is being triggered right now, right? But if you are genuinely, I want to say, having flashbacks, or it's just not feeling good, or you're in your whole time, your all-time high of, addictions, like it's something to look at, right? And I can definitely speak from experience with that. All right, does anyone have any questions about that? I just need to see if there's anything else that wants to stream through with that. It's interesting, all the kids are around through this live stream. I'm like, okay. It feels like, for me personally, with a sign with like the kids coming back and the joy coming back, because I've just been in a non-joyful space, and like I want to say instantly I feel better from releasing that. But it was so interesting the way it came about. It was just like, no, like it was a really definite, clear trigger around, the flashback, and like it's just time to leave. Yeah. Okay. So Roden says, what about us? If we don't want to follow our intuition, what about me if I don't want to stop smoking, even if spirit keeps saying it's a problem? So sometimes we think it's spirit, right? And I'm not doubting that you say it's spirit saying it's a problem. Like if we look at a general society, we're taught that smoking's bad for you, right? And I'm not saying that it's not, but it's like, like we're going to have all these different parts. Like you've got society's point of view, like smoking's going to give you cancer, smoking's going to do this, smoking's going to do that. And then you've got the part of you, the rebel, that's just like, I don't give a fuck. Like I'll do whatever the fuck I want. Thank you very much. And then you've got this other part of like, maybe like the health conscious part of you, like buried in there somewhere. Maybe you've got your soul buried in there. Maybe you've got spirit there too. Like, do you know what I mean? So you're going to have all these different shadow parts, all these different parts of yourself, societal judgments. You're going to have all these, and so it's kind of like this internal battle, right, between you just doing whatever the fuck you want to do and actually like these little health conscious parts, and then the society, like, do you know what I mean? So when you say like, what about us? If we don't want to follow our intuition, well, who's to say that your intuition is not guiding you to smoke? And I know that might sound like the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, or there'll be some people going, oh, your intuition wouldn't be telling you to smoke. And I'm like, how the fuck do you know? How the fuck do we know, right? If I look at it from a, life purpose mentor point of view, as I always say, don't focus on the addiction, focus on what's underneath the addiction, right? And if smoking is something that feels aligned for you, well, then you need to trust that. Now, some people might unfollow me, totally disagree, and I'm like, I don't really care. Because at the end of the day, if you're not doing what you want to do, you're going to be going against what's going to get you to the fastest healing ever. Okay? Because if you're doing what you want to do, rebel, breaking the rules, or whatever the fuck it is, like it doesn't really matter what it is. If you're going against something and you're forcing yourself to stop smoking, for example, right? That's going to be harder than just doing whatever the fuck you want to do and allowing the healing to happen. Because as I say, we don't focus on the addiction, we focus what's underneath the addiction, okay? So even when I knew I was in my Netflix binge, even when I knew I was in my unhealthy eating binge, even when I knew that I was in my slump, right? I was like, I was conscious of it and I wasn't. It's not like we're conscious all the time, right? And I was just thought that I was doing what felt right, and I was, right? When I look back over this 2.5 years, I'm like, wow, that was a big deal to like stay in that. And sure, I've learned lots, and sure, I've like, done lots of healing and understand like the depth of what was just going on there, right? And at the end of the day, what all of these choices do is it strengthens our intuition. It strengthens our intuition because what are we doing? We're trusting ourselves. I don't give a fuck. It's like, I don't give a fuck about my health. I just want a cigarette. I'm going to do that, right? And it's not that we shouldn't care about our health in that. That's not where I'm coming from, right? It's just that we need to do what we want to do because that's what we want to do, not what we logically think, oh, this is bad for my health, I shouldn't be doing this, blah, 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 blah. Like, when we do what we want to do, our heart, our intuition, our soul always knows the fastest route for our healing, always knows the fastest route for our desires. It's whether we trust ourselves or not enough to let go of societal judgments and all these little parts, right? And it's important to speak to these shadow parts. I'm not saying ignore them, like they've all got a voice, and we will be clearer within ourselves when we speak to these shadow parts. Okay, you can get my shadow meditation for free actually in my Clear and Activate pack, which is on my website, or you can find it on my page. I think I might have even shared it yesterday or something. I'll share it today, whatever. You can find my Clear and Activate page, Clear and Activate pack that has my free shadow meditation, which so you can speak to these parts, because when you actually speak to these parts by doing a shadow meditation, you become stronger in trusting yourself, you become stronger in understanding yourself, become stronger in who you are when all of these parts have had a voice, right? It's not that we're ignoring them, but we're conscious of them all, and we're still like doing what we feel is right in the moment, yeah? So, like I feel like that's just a little conscious part of you going, oh, it's a problem. Well, actually, it's not a problem. There's a bigger problem underneath, if you want to say it like that there's some deeper healing that needs to go. But as I always say, don't focus on the addiction. I just say focus on what you need to do, right? If I didn't focus on what I needed to do and what felt right in those moments for the past 2.5 to 3 years, I wouldn't have the strength of clarity of self. I wouldn't have that understanding that, wow, I will not stay in a situation as long as that next time. Like, do you know what I mean? I will trust myself more next time, because there's no way that I'll put myself in a slump like that for as long as I did. Do you know what I mean? Like, we gain the strength by trusting ourselves, no matter what the society judgment, no matter what the correct spiritual thing is to do. Like, fuck no. We do what's right in the moment, that feels right in the moment, because we wouldn't be doing it otherwise, right? I always say when we're trusting our intuition and we look back and we're like, fuck, what was I thinking? Well, back then, it wasn't like, oh, this is the wrong choice to stay in this situation. This is the wrong choice to have the cigarette. I'm going to have it because it's wrong. We don't fucking do that. We do it because it feels right in the moment, right? But when there's all this sort of like chaotic, like, oh, shouldn't do this, it's bad for your health, spirit saying this person's saying that, blah, 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 blah. It just means that you need to have a conversation with your shadow parts, and then you get clear and do what you want anyway, right? So Woden says, I worked with a deity and a spirit and they totally weren't happy about it. Maybe they're not. So what, right? You're going to trust them over yourself? I don't think so. And I talked about this. Where did I talk about this? I think I talked about this on a live stream not long ago, about not listening to even angels or spirits or anything. Because as I teach and trust intuition, when you become conscious, when you have a spiritual awakening, when you can sense presences, when you can know there's other beings or whatever around, right? You don't, trusting someone in the spirit world, whether it's your guardian angel, whether it's a spirit, whether it's an angel, whether it's someone who's passed over and is a deceased loved one, whether it's someone else that shows up or whatever, it's no different, okay? Always remember this. It is no different to trusting a stranger that walks up to you and says, you should do this with your life. It is no freaking different. It is no different. You might take that a bit of advice and go, oh, that's a good idea, thank you, right? But you don't take it on as gospel, right? The strongest part that you can do is trust yourself over any outside source, no matter if they're alive or living in the physical 3D world or if they're in the 5D world, an etherical galactic being that comes down and says, you should do this with your life. No. We trust ourselves over any outside source, whether living, dead, deceased, whatever, right? Just, yeah, you need to, so what if they weren't happy about it? It's like your family, like if they're going to, whatever. Do you know what I mean? All right, so Michael says, I find it tough to work out what is my guide's intuition talking or anxiety talking. Yeah, and so this is what we teach in Trust Intuition about really deciphering what is what, right? Because there's so many different parts. As you've seen, I've just spoken about all these different parts, like going through and, like shadow parts, past life parts, trauma, family trauma, generational trauma, like third eye trauma, past life, like there's so many. Inner child. Like there's your intuition and which one's which, right? And that comes with skill, practice, discipline, and understanding. Like it's skills, yeah, it's definitely skills that we need to work through, understand, etc., etc. Love this, Cam. So lovely to have you here. Josephine says, that's like me. I'm going to have this chocolate and I'm going to show it a good time. Exactly, right? We just need to do what's right, like, you know what I mean? You'd love to do that, yes. Yes. I was checking these comments here. Roden says, it means you need another stick. And that's the thing, right? If we're like forcing ourselves to stop before we're ready, it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. We're forcing ourselves to leave a situation before we're like willingly ready to just go, this shit's not for me anymore. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like when I left my, recreational drug habit of raving and doing all the things, or even when I quit smoking, like if I tried to do it before I was ready, it doesn't work. I want to say don't force yourself, just work with what is strongest for you and continue to do what you want to do. And if you're in an unhappy situation, well, of course those addictions are going to be at an all-time high. But if you try and focus on changing the addiction without sourcing the fuel of your unhappiness, it's not going to work. It's going to make the situation worse. Trust me. Trust me. Great timing. Yes, perfect. All right. So does anyone else have any other questions? My 2022 psychic forecast is live, activated, and ready. So if you want me to be your guide over 2022, which means that I do a 12-month spread for you, 12-month oracle card, tarot card spread, whatever I choose to use for you that intuitively comes through. And I literally go through month by month and give you intuitive guidance for month by month over 2022. So the link is in the title of this live stream, and you will see it on my website and page when I start sharing, because I just haven't put it on there yet. But that is for 2022. I go through month by month, and in that reading I also give you times to come back through 2022 to listen again, months to watch out for, things to watch out for, so we don't keep staying in these unhealthy situations, for example, right? So it gives you guidance, a heads up of the energy. Now always remember, I don't predict the future, but we can sense the energy, right? And we can feel certain things, and if you're going to continue to make certain decisions, well then these things have an outcome. But if you decide to change the decisions that you make and the actions that you make, of course, you're going to have a different outcome. Yeah, because I'm a big believer that we create our future. I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm all the things, right? However, we can predict the future. There's always a part that we can see. There's always a path that we can see, for sure. But it's not set in stone. It's not set in stone at all, right? What is set in stone is your choice in the moment now that creates every moment thought. That's the only thing that's set in stone, is your choice that you make now. Yeah? Well, we can always sense energy. We always get a vibe of things, right? And the 2022 forecast is giving you a vibe, so you know what's coming up, so you know when it's going to be a heavy energy month, or you need to take extra care of yourself, or don't make decisions in this month, or just wait, or do this, or don't do that, just to give you a heads up of the energy, so that you know and can prepare to look after yourself better, etc. Right? So Rodin says, what do you identify as spiritual, pagan, etc.? What do I identify as? What do you identify as? So I don't really identify with anything. Spiritual, pagan, witch, I mean, people probably call me all of that. I do identify as an intuitive healer and life purpose mentor. That is who I am. That is what I do. As an intuitive healer, I identify as everything, with everything, as everything, and nothing of it at the same time. Because as an intuitive healer, we're connected to everything. There's no certain strict hey, this is what you do. And in our trust intuition to become a certified intuitive healer, it is because there is no set path of healing. There is no set stone, as I just was saying, there's no set path, there's no set in stone, this is how it's going to be. As an intuitive healer, we have a gift that taps into everything, because the truth and the reality is that everyone is connected to everything, and anything that is identifiable, pagan, witch, spiritual, any sort of religion, it comes with a structure. It as all the black cockatoos fly overhead, the yellow-tailed black cockatoos, that's pretty significant. When we identify as something, we're kind of stuck and limited and restricted, right? And when we have as an intuitive healer, we are all of those things and we are none of those things. Yeah, as an intuitive healer, everything is connected, everything means something, and everything doesn't mean anything at all. As an intuitive healer, you're like a high priest or priestess. You're a wizard. You're an alchemist. Everything is everything, and everything is nothing. And in the all, everything is available at any given moment in time. And in trust and intuition to become a certified healer, this is what I train you in, because trusting your intuition in the moment about what's coming through right now, for the client in front of you, for the person in front of you, for yourself, is the path to take. And every moment can change. All of the above and none of the above. Exactly, Josephine. Yeah. All right, so my 2022 forecast, the link is in the title of this live stream. If you know that this can help somebody, please share it. If you're watching the replay and you've got questions, comment below, and I shall see you soon, because Hannah's back.